I don't think they saved the best for the last. I'm just one of many. We heard a lot about the military life. And I like to say, we were kids, 18, 19 years old. In 1945, it was a different world. I met Joe at Camp Shelby. Joe had many things on his mind. And in that video, it said, Joe was not an ordinary Joe. That's right. Joe had as many friends with the Hawaiian Nisei as he did with the mainland Nisei. And some of you might know that we had our differences, so he was very unusual. Well, after Pearl Harbor was bombed, the military did not want American boys of Japanese ancestry in their military. We were classified 4C, enemy alien. Joe tried to enlist. He was turned down because he looked like the enemy. But Joe got even. When the 442nd was formed, he volunteered and became a soldier in the U.S. Army. Well, you know the story about the 442nd. Very courageous men. I was honored to be one of them. Reading the caption of Joe's Medal of Honor award doesn't really capture what was happening. Now, I don't want to go over everything that you've heard already, but I'd like to just say the conditions. We were in eastern France. We were less than 50 miles from the German border. The Americans were racing to be the first Americans to cross into Germany. Hitler had reinforced his troops, had told them, do not let the Americans into our country. When General Dahlquist of the 36th Division ordered his men to advance and keep advancing, one battalion, the 1st Battalion of the 141st Regiment of the 36th Division, raced ahead. Suddenly, the Germans surrounded them. Hitler's order was annihilate the Americans. We were in eastern France, late October. It was raining, pouring. You thought it was cold outside today? That's how cold it was in the Vosges Mountains then. Besides snow, we had heavy rains. Everybody had trench foot. Everybody was soaking wet. No hot food. We were lucky that some of the rear echelon boys could bring ammunition and water up to the front line. Everything had to be done by foot because the Vosges Mountains were very thickly forested and it was muddy, very muddy. You couldn't dig a foxhole without it filling with water. Some of you have experienced what an artillery barrage is like when they're shooting directly at you. Well, the Germans were using the anti-aircraft weapon, the 88, a high-velocity rifle, pointed it down right directly at the infantry and bang! horrible. Not only was the shrapnel flying all over, but they would hit the forest, the trees. And now the 442nd was suffering from tree bursts. Splinters from the branches, huge branches, 300, 400, 500 pounds, falling down, creating many casualties. We had so many casualties in that battle, over 800. Over 200 boys were killed. But on October 30, the 442nd broke through because October 29, Joe Sakato led his platoon forward after the death of his buddy Saburo Tanamachi. And like he said, road rage. He told me he didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't control himself. He took his weapon and started shooting uphill. He wiped out 2 Germans in the first machine gun nest, fired into the second machine gun nest, killed those Germans, aimed at the third one, and he got hit, seriously wounded. But the 442 took the German position. The next day, they were able to rescue the trapped men of the 1st Battalion, 141st Division, that regiment. We talked to Marty Higgins. Only 3 lieutenants were left. Marty said, we were out of food. We had no water. We had no medical supplies. We could not treat our wounded. We had so little ammunition. We pooled it in the middle of our position. And if the 442nd had not rescued them that day, they would not have survived. Well, because of Joe's action, the whole platoon, the whole company, the whole regiment went forward. It was called one of the bloodiest battles in the history of World War II. But it came at a huge price. Many years later, well, many months later, Joe was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the 2nd highest award for valor in the United States Army. I was there in Washington many years later when President Clinton presented Joe with the upgraded Congressional Medal of Honor. When the war was over, the 442nd returned to the United States, marched down Constitution Avenue, and were greeted by President Harry Truman. He said, "You fought the enemy and you have won. And you fought prejudice and you have won. Keep up the good work." Well, the war record speaks for itself, but there were so many good things that happened because of what Joe Sakato did in that battle in the forest in eastern France. The boys that had been called enemy aliens, declared to be 4C, were now all 1A, and they could join any branch of the United States military. The concentration camps that had been built in 1942 to house over 120,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry were now being closed. They were given their freedom. And to top it off, the Issei, the immigrants from Japan, Joe's parents, were now able to become naturalized American citizens. A huge turnaround. I can remember the good times that we had. Joe was not an ordinary Joe. He was a true American hero. And we'll always be grateful for what Joe did. So wherever you are, Joe, rest in peace.